Cooking with Claire. Now today I'm going to make a quince preserve, a quince marmalade. Now this is a quince. Now here in Spain this is a very, very popular fruit at this time of year. I mean, I'm filming this in November and we've just been given a whole bag of quinces by some friends that have got a plot of land with a quince tree on it. Usually when we get a glut of these, when we get a bag of these given to us, we make quince wine. But this year I've been looking through my Tudor recipe books, my medieval and Tudor recipe books, to find something that I could make with them instead of making the wine. Now in this book, this is a book that I often refer to when I'm looking for recipes. This is Lady Eleanor Fetterplace's receipt book, receipt being the old word for recipe, and it's edited by Hilary Spurling, who's actually a descendant of Lady Fetterplace. And there are quite a lot of quince recipes in this book in the October and November sections, when obviously quinces were in season. Hilary Spurling actually makes the point that there are far more recipes for quince than any other fruit mentioned in Lady Fetterplace's manuscript, which is from the Elizabethan period. And it's kind of interesting how obviously it was a very, very popular fruit in the medieval and Tudor era. And yet today in England, you just don't see them in the supermarkets. It's only if you've got a friend who's got a quince tree that you really get to cook with them. But in other countries, I mean, here in Spain, it really is a popular fruit. And in the shops, you see membrillo, which is a preserve, a very firm preserve, which you can actually sort of slice with a knife and serve with cheese and ham on, and that as a tapas. So it's still a very popular fruit in here, but it's gone out of fashion in England, and I think that's such a shame. So plant a quince tree and grow your own. So today I'm going to make marmalade. Now, it's out of this book. Lady Eleanor's manuscript says, to make quince marmalade, red or white, boil your quinces till they be very soft in water, then take them up, and when they are through cold, pare them and take the softest of them, and weigh to every pound of it a pound of sugar. Boil it till it come to candy, then put in the pap of your quinces and stir it well together. Then put it in boxes and so dry it. If you will have it red, put it in a pint of water to a pound of sugar. Boil it and scum it, then put in your quinces in pretty big pieces. Cover it close and let it boil till it be red. Then stir it together and boil it till it be thick enough. Then put it in boxes and so keep it. So there are two recipes, two ways of making quince marmalade. There's a red version or a white version. Now today, because I've only got a few quinces, if I had a load, I'd try the sort of red and white versions. But today I'm just going to go with the red version because I think that sounds really nice. Both versions start off the same. We put the whole quinces in a saucepan. You'll need a big saucepan if you've got quite a lot of them. And we're just going to cover them with water and stew just on the hob at a kind of medium heat until they're tender. So I've put them in a really big pan and I'm just going to cover them with water and stew them until they're tender. Hilary Spurling says that will take about an hour, and the way of testing them is to pierce them with the blunt end of a skewer or the end of a spoon, the blunt end of a spoon handle, just to check that they're tender. You don't want them really, really mushy, but just to check that they are tender. And it's not until after they are tender that we then peel and core them. So I'm just going to cover them with water now. Okay, they've been simmering for about 45 minutes now, and I've just done a spoon test just with the end of the spoon. Sorry, that's thunder and lightning outside, it's very atmospheric. So you can see that's tender. Now I'm just going to let them cool in the liquid they've cooked in, so that they're cool enough to handle, and then I'm going to peel them, core them and slice them ready for the next bit. I've just peeled, sliced and cored the quince, just sort of roughly sliced it, so that's how much flesh I got from those quinces. Now the recipe calls for it to be cooked with an equal amount of sugar, so I've weighed that and it was 645 grams, so I'm just going to weigh out 645 grams of sugar. I'm just using ordinary sugar. Obviously they didn't have this refined white sugar in Tudor times. Get it up to 645 grams. Okay, and I'm going to put that in the pan. I'm using the very biggest pan that I've got, which is a heavy bottomed pan, because I'm going to have to cook the fruit with the equal amount of sugar and with some of the liquid that I stewed the fruit in originally, which is a beautiful red colour. So I'm using my Le Creuset sort of cast iron pot. So I'm just going to put in some of the liquid, and obviously I can put more liquid in as I need to, because the recipe says, Hilary Spurling says, to cook it for about 6 to 7 hours. She says it will be sort of almost black until it sort of hits the light, and then you'll see it as a deep red. So I'm just going to put that on the lowest possible heat with a lid on, and she says it takes 6 to 7 hours, and I'm just going to see, I'm going to keep an eye on it, so do it while you're actually sort of around and can check on it. But I'm going to put a lid on and just the lowest possible heat for 6 to 7 hours. I'm going to add more liquid if needs be. I've kept the cooking liquid. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just bringing this up to a simmer just to get it going, and I'm just mixing it just so that the sugar doesn't catch at the bottom. And as soon as it's up to a simmer, I'll turn the heat right down and put the lid on, and then leave it for the 6 to 7 hours until it's a deep red, almost black. This has been on a very low heat now for about 6 hours, just over 6 hours, and you can see how the colour has changed to a really, really deep wine red. So now we're going to put the heat up. Eleanor Fetterplace, Lady Fetterplace, says to now boil it until it be thick enough. And Hilary Spurling says to boil it until until most of the liquid has evaporated. So I'm turning the heat up, not covering it for this because we want the liquid to evaporate away. And I'm just going to reduce it down. This boil now for about 15 to 20 minutes, and you can see how much it's reduced because you've got the line there of where the liquid came up to after the 6 hours of being on a low heat, and now after a fast boil it's reduced an awful lot. And I'm cheating at this stage. I've got a sugar thermometer here, and it's just coming up to the jam line now. Now what Hilary Spurling says about this jam, this marmalade, is that the fruit actually keeps its shape. You can see it's still in the chunks that I cut it, so it's going to be a really nice chunky jam or marmalade. Now interestingly, this is called quince marmalade in the manuscript, and of course we'd now call it jam really. But what's interesting here in Spain is that the word mermelada is their word for jam, and they use it for orange marmalade, they use it for any type of preserve. So that's where the word comes from. So in Tudor times it's interesting that they were using the word marmalade for all types of preserves as well. So what we'd call quince jam, they call quince marmalade. So now it's just reached the jam temperature on my sugar thermometer. Now of course there are other jam tests you can do, and of course in Tudor times, I mean Lady Fetterplace, she was just doing it until it be thick, as she said. There's also, you can put a little plate in your freezer, and then get a teaspoonful of the jam, and just sort of blob it onto the cold plate, and then let it cool just for a few seconds, and then rub your finger over the top of it and see if it wrinkles, and that's a good test to see that your mixture has got up to the right temperature. Right, I've switched that off now. I've got a very messy cooker because it's splattered everywhere. And I'm just going to let it cool slightly before I start putting it into the jam jars. Now you can sterilise the jam jars or use clean and dry ones. There's various ways of sterilising them, but yes, you just need to make sure that they're clean. So I'm going to let that cool for a few minutes just before I start putting it in the jar. Right, I've let the jam mixture cool for a few minutes, and you can see that it's just this beautiful deep red, and it's so funny to think that that deep red, almost black mixture came from the quinces, which you know, are quite a pale orange to start really. So I'm just going to start putting it into my jam jar. It's really, it reminds me of strawberry jam, or perhaps plum or damson jam, the kind of colour that it is. It really is lovely. So I'm just carefully doing that. See, my hand is getting a bit hot with the jar. And there we have a lovely jar of jam. Now, Hilary Spurling talks about how Lady Fetterplace would have sealed her jars by getting some handwriting paper and dipping it in brandy, and then putting that over the jar or container that she was using, and then sealing it over the top with animal bladder sort of stretched over the top, and that would act as a seal along with the alcoholic paper. So that's how Lady Fetterplace would have sealed her jam jars, but of course I'm using modern jam jars. So I mean, that is a really beautiful colour, really lovely. So I'm going to let that cool down, and I'll have a try of that later. So I've finished putting the quince marmalade into jars, and I've ended up with 3 full jars and a little bit left over for testing. So it's still slightly warm, but you can see it's lovely. Obviously the main part of the jam had chunks in it. This is just my my tester, which was the dregs in the bottom of the saucepan, so I haven't got any chunky bits here, which is a shame, but I still get all the flavour and all the smell when I was simmering the fruit for the 6 to 7 hours. Oh, it was a lovely smell in the kitchen, in fact throughout the house, a really fruity smell. So there you go. I might even let Tim have half the slice. Aren't I kind? Right, so this is it. Now I've tried quince membrillo, which is the Spanish preserve, but I've never tried quince marmalade, so I'm going to have a try. That is really tasty. I'm trying to think what fruit it's like. I would say that it's like a plum or a damson jam. It's really, really nice, really sweet. You would not know it was quince, but it's a beautiful flavour, really, really lovely. So definitely one I'll be making again next year when I get a load of quince given to me again. Really nice. So thank you for joining me. I will share the recipe for the white marmalade, which is a totally different colour, as you can obviously guess from its name. I'll share with you the recipe for that as well underneath this video. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I do hope you'll try this recipe. Take care, see you soon, bye.